Hi, welcome to SEDE 7340. I want to talk briefly about Assignment 10, which is your last assignment for the course. This information is also included in the syllabus, but I just want to provide you with a little bit more about it. So the first thing I need you to do is read Chapter 11 in your textbook, Content Area Reading. And then after you've read the chapter, I want you to return to the pages on about different nonfiction texts for content area classrooms. That is figure 11.2. It's on pages 355 and 356. I want you to look over that list of books, nonfiction trade books for content area classrooms, and I want you to choose a book from that list that you would like to read. These are books that are aimed at middle and high school readers, nonfiction, great for use in content area classrooms. If you don't see a book on that list that you would like to read, you can also look at the list of resources that's contained in figure 11.1 on pages 351 and 352. Those are some online resources that you can turn to that will have other nonfiction books aimed at middle and high school readers. If you find a book in that list of resources in figure 11.1 that's not listed in figure 11.2, I'd like for you to email me for approval to use that book for this assignment. Keep in mind, it needs to be nonfiction aimed at middle and high school readers. Okay, so if you choose a book that is not specifically listed in figure 11.2, you need to email me for permission. So include the title and author in your email. Okay. Once you've chosen a book, I want you to read that nonfiction trade book. And you guys, there's a ton of great nonfiction out there for adolescent readers, a ton of it. It has become, over the past couple of years, one of my favorite things to read. And it's so useful for supplementing the curriculum and the textbook in different content area classrooms. So you have a little bit longer for this assignment. You have a couple of weeks, but make sure you read that book. After you have read it, you're going to turn to page 357 in your textbook, figure 11.1, and that lists the 5 A's for evaluating nonfiction trade books. So what you're going to do is you're going to then go back through your book and you're going to write up an evaluation of it using the 5 A's. So for example, the first A is authority. Does the author identify and credit experts consulted during the research process? So you're going to have to talk about in your paper how the author met or did not meet that criterion. And if they did meet it, give some specific examples. So say that in the references section at the back of the book, the author credits a number of people. Within the text, there are citations. This is a way to make sure that the author has some credibility to be able to write this nonfiction book and that they consulted credible resources. The second one, accuracy, is the text, and I'm reading these questions directly off of page 357. These are questions to consider as you evaluate. Is the text content accurate? Are maps, graphs, charts, and other visual aids presented clearly? Does the author distinguish between facts and theories? Okay, so we think would be theory, we know would be fact. So when you evaluate the book, when you write up your evaluation of the book about in terms of accuracy, you want to cite specific examples. So let's say you choose a nonfiction trade book that's about the planets, and it talks about Pluto as a planet. Well, you need to talk about the fact that that's, at this point, based on what we know, that's inaccurate information. Okay, so you have to give, I don't want you to just say the book is accurate. You need to say, how do you know it's accurate? What are some specific examples? Explain yourself, or use what we would call textual evidence. Appropriateness is the third A in the 5 A's for evaluating nonfiction trade books. Is the information presented in ways appropriate to the intended audience? So you can do some looking in the book to see what the age range is in terms of target audience. An easy way to do that also is to look it up on Amazon.com and see what the publisher says in terms of intended audience. Does the author show respect for the reader? So does the author keep in mind questions that a child or adolescent of that age would have about this topic? And is the information effectively organized? So you'll want to look at the table of contents and see how it's structured. And when you write up your evaluation of appropriateness, cite some specific examples. Literary artistry. This is my favorite in the 5 A's. So does the book have literary artistry? So as you're reading it, did it appeal to you as a reader? Did you like the language? A great example, a book called Bomb, The Making and Stealing of the World's Most Dangerous Weapon by Steve Shankin. In my opinion, it has literary artistry because it reads like a narrative. That's a pretty good example of literary artistry. I like the way in that book Shankin tells the story of the building of the atomic bomb from different perspectives, different people who were involved in that. That is literary artistry, in my opinion. Does the author use literary devices to make information come alive? You can look online, look at Google for what are some different literary devices, personification, onomatopoeia, sound devices, anaphora, synecdoche. There's all kinds of them. Feel free to look them up, read about them, and cite some examples of that. And is the author's style engaging? What's their style of writing? And then the last A is attractiveness. Is the appearance and layout of the book likely to entice readers? So think about it in contrast to a textbook. Okay, a lot of times nonfiction trade books for teens are much more enticing because of the way they're laid out. They don't look like a textbook. They have lots of graphics, photographs. Sometimes they look like something you would read in a news magazine, so sidebars and text boxes. So you want to talk about that, remembering for each of these A's, not only to say whether or not the book meets that criterion, but also how. Explain yourself by providing some examples, okay? So you're going to write that up in a paper. And then the next part of the paper, you're going to want to flip to page 365 in your textbook. This is the last part, the second part of this chapter, and you're going to read through those instructional strategies for trade books. And then at the end of your evaluation, I want you to write 2 or 3 paragraphs about how a teacher of this content area could use this nonfiction trade book in their classroom. Okay? Feel free to use examples out of this instructional strategies section or share some other instructional strategies that you're aware of. Okay, so I want you to be explicit. How could a teacher use this trade book that you've read in their content area classroom? So if I'm going to, if I say I'm a social studies teacher, and we're going to read Bomb, The Race to Build and Steal the World's Most Dangerous Weapon by Steve Shankin, one thing that I might have my students do is use one of the reader response strategies. So we might use some reflective writing about the book after they've read a chapter or two. So they might talk about how the book struck them, what it meant to them. Another thing that we might do later on is some reader's theater. I might write up a reader's theater script, or better yet, the students might write up a reader's theater script of a particular scene in the book, and they might act that out for the class. Okay, so I want you to think about what are some ways you could have a teacher, or you could use this book in a content area classroom. So you're going to write all of that up, and you're going to post it on the appropriate blog. When you post it into the blog on Blackboard, please copy and paste it into the blog rather than attaching it as a PDF or as a doc. I want you to copy and post it into the blog. Much easier for people to read than downloading your docs and your PDFs. That's going to be due by April 24th. And then you are going to read and respond to a minimum of 3 other people's blogs. Those entries will be due by April 28th. Please email me if you have questions. I look forward to hearing about the great nonfiction trade books that you're reading for teens. If you have questions or want some recommendations for a book, like if you know a topic that you're interested in but you just can't find the right book for that, feel free to email me, call me. I'd be happy to help you out. Y'all have fun with this. I think that you'll find there's a lot of exciting nonfiction out there for teens. Enjoy!